Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. I hope you are doing well. In today's video, I'd like to talk about this topic. It's a very sad story and it was actually featured on Rapi Tulfo's channel. You're probably familiar with Rapi Tulfo. He's a public servant in the Philippines, also a senator, and he helps a lot of Filipinos. And in one of the episodes, a mother of a Filipino went there to share her, grievances. Very sad story of her daughter who was allegedly murdered by the husband. It looks like the husband who allegedly killed this Filipina was suffering with mental health. That seems to be like the common story of these things going on nowadays. The person is suffering from mental health issues. All right, so just a little bit of a background to this story. So this Filipina, I'm not going to be able to correctly pronounce the last name of the husband because it's very hard. It's Slovenian, so I'm going to put it on the screen. So the Filipina's name is Marvil Facturan. The Slovenian last name is going to be on the screen. She is a 27-year-old Filipina who was allegedly killed by her husband in Bled, Slovenia on December 29, 2024. She had recently arrived in Slovenia just a week before her death to start a new life with her husband, Nyce. I'm going to put the last name on the screen. And the couple had a whirlwind romance. They reportedly began talking in April 2024 and they got married in July 2024. Now, when I saw this, I thought, what? Hold on a minute. I thought it was like a year after. No, it's the same year. April, May, June, July. 3 months. I mean, I don't think that's enough time to know someone and get married that quick, but they did. And yes, looks like it did not end well. So this is the details of the incident. So the circumstances. Marvil was allegedly beaten and stabbed to death during a domestic dispute in their apartment. And she was discovered by neighbors who called police after hearing screams. And authorities found Nyce barricaded inside the apartment and Marvil was found deceased. And the suspect, Nyce, has been arrested in connection with the murder. So Nyce is in detention and was taken to a psychiatric hospital after his arrest, and reports indicated that he has had a history of mental health issues. And he is currently being held in a forensic prison in Slovenia, a facility for individuals with mental illness who have been charged with a crime. So the investigation on this case is still ongoing, and I'm not quite sure if they have been able to get the body back to the Philippines. They probably have. I'm gonna have to look it up and see the update on this story, but they're investigating it. Looks like this is really a case of, a person who's suffering from mental illness, because a lot of people posted like pictures, because the girl was very she was very active on social media, and so she had posted pictures of their happy moments, the LDR, long distance relationship, the updates on that. And the guy looks like a very normal guy, seems like a very sweet guy, but if he was suffering from mental illness, he could have that one snap moment. And yeah, it's a very sad story. Now, when I saw this story, it reminded me of a story from back in the year 2000, early 2000s. And this story really stayed with me because it could have been one of those fairy tale love story, but ended up really badly. Now, this was the story of Michelle and Jonathan Nyce. This was featured, I can't remember if it was True Crime, it must have been Discovery, but it was titled Deadly Affairs Betrayed by Love. Now, I cannot find the original video that I saw, but I had the summary of the stories, because this story just one of those stories that really breaks your heart. Again, this was a fairy tale love story that turned into a nightmare. And as I mentioned, someone did ask, how come you give advice to foreigners but not to Filipinos? So this was always on my to-do list, and now I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the story. So this story started in well, their story started much earlier than this, but in early 2004, a still running car found in a creek in New Jersey led to a troubling discovery. So Michelle Nyce, this is the Filipina, she's a young mother who was found dead at the steering wheel. So it looks like an accident, but turned out as they investigated, things didn't seem to add up. And turned out the accident turned into a homicide investigation. So who is Michelle Nyce? So she was born Michelle Rivera and was born in the Philippines in November 1969. When she was a teenager during the late 1980s, she began talking to Jonathan Nyce. So this love story, started much early on in the 1980s. So, and she started talking to this guy, an American, who was then a professor in North Carolina. And back in the days, of course, there's no social media. So a lot of people were, meeting people through letters, pen pals, that's how they started talking. So in 1990, Jonathan traveled to the Philippines and the two married. Now, I remember when I first saw the first video, what someone did mention this on the video, that they were pen pals, and back in the days, the only way you can actually get to know how the person looks like is, of course, with a letter. They will send a picture, and apparently this man sent a picture of himself when he was younger. There was there is definitely deception there, because obviously she fell in love with that picture. She thought, wow, very good looking young man, and then he shows up and he's not very young on that, in person. So she was disappointed, but regardless, they fell in love, got married, settled down in the US, and the man became a successful pharmaceutical researcher, and he temporarily ran a lucrative company. They lived in a luxurious house in Hopewell Township, New Jersey, with their 3 children. Now, things started to fall apart when his business started falling apart. Looks like, as far as remembering the story, looks like that's when things started to fall apart. His business started, I think his business ended up getting bankrupt, and she started getting antsy. So there were some financial struggles in the family, and that's when the relationship started falling apart. So in that story, on that video, trying to recall the details on that story, one day, looks like the woman, the Filipina, said, I wanted to, and this is not on my cheat sheet here. She wanted to renovate, upgrade the landscaping in the house. They have this beautiful house, and she wanted to do something about landscaping. She did not like the landscaping, so they hired a landscaping company. And this landscaping company showed up, and one of those guys, guess what? She ended up having an affair with. So there were some troubles in the relationship. She saw someone who happened to be working in, the landscaping on their house and on their yard, and she ended up having an affair with that guy. Now, this is how she died. On the chilly morning of January 16, 2004, people passing by spotted a car in a shallow creek that seemed to have veered off the road and have fallen in. In the driver's seat was a 34-year-old Michelle with her head split open. The injuries seemed way too severe to have been caused by the incident. So that prompted the authorities to take a second look. And at the scene, they found footprints leading away from the passenger side of the car. The police then began to consider the possibility that Michelle had been murdered. So, of course, as soon as they started investigating, of course, they're going to investigate the husband, because it's always like the first person of interest. So Jonathan told authorities that he last saw Michelle the previous evening at around 4 p.m. when she was getting ready to head to work at a local department store. So remember, as I mentioned, this couple actually lived a very luxurious lifestyle, but he had this very lucrative pharmaceutical, business. He was doing so well, and then it started falling apart. They had some, financial struggles in the marriage, financial issues that they had to deal with. And that's when things also start falling apart in the relationship. And I remember in that story, on that video, she actually she started, looking for a job outside of the home. So I think at first she wanted to become like a fitness trainer. So he got him enrolled into some fitness classes. But then she eventually ended up working for Macy's, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Macy's, a department store. She was a beauty consultant. So apparently, according to him, when they were investigating, according to him, that was the last time he saw her. So a closer look at the couple's relationship over the past few years revealed that things weren't all that great between them. Well, Jonathan made a lot of money through research. He had this asthma drug company and he had this, big lucrative contract, and then it didn't work out. And so they had to eventually file for bankruptcy. So that project he had with this asthma drug company, it was shelved later on, and he was fired from his own pharmaceutical company. At the time, he was a stay-at-home dad who tried to publish a book of poems. Now, Michelle's family members in the Philippines also stated that Jonathan was very possessive about his wife and constantly tried keeping tabs on her. Things took a turn sometime in July 2003 when a man called Jonathan and played an audio tape of his wife having sex with someone else. He asked for 500,000 US dollars, and if Jonathan did not pay up, he would release this audio videos and videotapes of her doing that with another man. So the police were brought up into the picture and an investigation followed. Now, of course, the family in the Philippines was saying that, well, he was very jealous, he was very possessive. But if you really look into the story, there was a reason why he was very possessive and very jealous, because she was having an affair. Remember that guy that was working on their landscaping? Apparently some Hispanic guy. She ended up having an affair with that guy. And the guy was also married. So it's not like his jealousy is like out of place. I mean, obviously he was jealous because there was a history there. So Michelle then admitted to the police that she had been having an affair. She admitted to this with this guy. She was having an affair with this guy named Miguel de Jesus, who was known to her as Alexander Castaneda, the family landscaper. So this guy's, I guess, even after the project, he would still, just to do maintenance. Just gonna, this is really... Anyways, so this affair started in October of 2002, and according to her, they ended it in July 2003. But looks like they did not really end it. At least in that video that I saw, looks like she was going out of the house, meeting him in some of the cities, like motels, to do what they're doing. And so the husband has found out about that, and of course he's become very, very possessive and very, very jealous. He wanted to make things work, even though they may be having a lot of financial issues at home. That put probably a lot of money problems can put a lot of pressure on the marriage, but it sometimes can make people, work together and really, like, sometimes you can get closer because of those issues, because you got to work together. But in their case, looks like they started falling apart as soon as the guy lost his, lucrative job. And so she started working outside. She said this affair is done. She's not having an affair with him anymore. But she said she broke up with him because he began demanding money from her and stalking her. And of course, the guy that she was having an affair with, who apparently is also married, he denied having anything to do with the extortion call or having an affair with Michelle. Eventually, a judge placed a restraining order on Miguel. He was not supposed to contact Michelle for 2 years. And so the husband thought this was done. She's not doing this anymore. But on the night leading up to Michelle's death, she had spent time with Miguel at a motel before returning home sometime after midnight. So it looks like, even though they both denied that they're not having an affair anymore, that affair went on. And the husband found out about that, especially that night before she returned home, because apparently she spent time with her lover in the motel. So Jonathan later told the police that his wife attacked him. Of course, this is when, the case was going. He had to, his lawyers are there trying to defend him. According to him, the wife Michelle started to attack him in the garage. She came home from sleeping with the other guy, and they have an altercation, and apparently she tried to attack him. And he thought that she had a knife when she came home, holding it, trying to attack him with that knife. But according to him, Michelle fell into the floor from the car and he hit her head on the floor during the struggle that led to her death. Then Jonathan put Michelle in the driver's seat of her car and used an ice pick to control the acceleration and brake pedals while in the passenger's seat. And Jonathan, the husband, then drove that vehicle with her on it about a mile when he found the creek, running the car off the road and into the water. At that point, he left the car running and walked back home. In the garage, the authorities found cut up shoe soles hidden all over, and they matched the footprints found at the accident scene. Furthermore, there was evidence of blood in the garage. The prosecution claimed that Michelle wanted out of the marriage and was going to leave him, but Jonathan couldn't let that happen, so he attacked her. I mean, really, if you think about this story, it's so messy. This is one of those stories where you can really get a lot of, things to watch out for, and also a lot of lessons to be learned from these stories. Marrying someone out of convenience, again, you could be looking at a story like this. This story could have been a good story, but the problem is, how it started, it's not good. That didn't mean that it could have not ended better. Looks like the husband actually wanted to save the marriage. He's forgiven her many times and really wanted to make things work. They have 3 children, but she wanted to divorce. She wanted to file for divorce. She wanted out of the marriage. She's continuing to have an affair, and he was just over it. And probably on his mind, if I can't keep you, then I'll just terminate you. That's kind of probably the mindset he had. But during the trial, he claimed that Michelle had planned with Miguel, this is the man she was having an affair with, to extort her husband, and he had planned to kill him on the night of the incident. So he was saying that, oh, they're the one planning to kill me. So, we had the altercation, we had a fight, she tried to hurt me. So we ended up having this physical fight. And he's basically saying that this was an accident, but I don't think it was an accident. I think he planned it. I think he heard about the ongoing affair, that it was never ended like she said it did, and he planned it. He was waiting on her on that garage and intentionally, killed her. And because of that, I think the jury also looked at all of the circumstances. Everything was taken into account. So I think some people were expecting like a longer sentence, but the jury found him guilty of passion, provocation, manslaughter, and tampering with evidence, because, he kind of wanted to make it look like it was an accident, but that was tampering of evidence. But really, he already killed her in a garage, drove her to that creek. Anyways, in September 2005, he was found guilty and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Now, some people are saying it's not enough time, but again, I think the jury have taken into consideration all of the things that happened prior to this crime being committed. So he was actually released after serving just 5 years in prison. So, I mean, that's not very long, because I think they really did consider the entire story of their relationship before he committed that crime. Now, as I mentioned, this could have ended better, since he was actually willing to forgive, but she did not want this relationship anymore, because I don't think she married him for love. I think she married him for convenience. So ladies, if you're not sure about this person, you really are not attracted to the guy. You're just marrying this guy because you think he's generous with, support to your family. You could be looking at a story like this. I mean, this topic is very, very big topic to talk about. I mean, if you have any question that you'd like to ask, you're more than welcome to add that in my comment section. But the story of the Filipina in the very beginning of the video, the one that was murdered in Slovenia, that's still ongoing investigation. It looks like the man really is suffering from mental illness. So for Filipinas out there looking into marrying a foreigner, I mean, you have to be very vigilant as well, because you just never know who you're talking to. There's a lot of men out there who's already suffering from a lot of problems, and they go online, they think they're gonna find a solution, and they never really have gotten to taking care of the root problem that they have. They just think that you're going to be like the solution. Oh, if I find a girl that wants me, maybe everything will be all right. But if you don't try to fix the original problems, or the root problems that you have, you just kind of try to patch it, that could be very tragic. And that's what happened to that Filipina that was killed in Slovenia. All right, I'm gonna end this video here before I start rambling. I thank you for watching. I'll see you on my next video. Goodbye, everyone.